Hello, everybody. Hola, hola. Welcome, 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 and happy Friday. We're going to dive right on in with step 4 of the strategic planning process. And our word for today is implementation, which represents step 4. Today, as I talk about implementation, let me just kind of give you guys a brief recap. On yesterday, we talked about planning. Let me say this before we go any further. One of the things that it is critical that you understand as we talk about planning, just because you go through the process of planning and outlining all of these details that you're going to follow through with for next year, keep in mind that you do need to leave room for God to give you direction, for him to show you something new, something innovative, something fresh. And when that happens, you have to leave space to be able to implement that because you know that you heard a thing. So with that being said, we are going to dive right into the final step called implementation, or for lack of a better word, taking action. Today's scripture foundation will come from James 1. James 1 says, "For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being not just a hearer, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing." Let me say this as we talk about implementation. So I love James 1, 2, 3, 4. I love James from the standpoint of understanding faith, action, and doing what you need to do. Also understanding that the man who knows a thing and doesn't act on it is committing sin. All of these scriptures are scriptures that I hold on to as I hear from God and begin to take action on whatever it is that he has revealed to me. So, and for those of you, I've spent probably the last 8 to 10 years of my life studying vision planning, studying action planning, and really doing and conducting strategic planning sessions. And just in this whole process, I've seen the full gamut of people who get it and run wholeheartedly and get it done, and then people who just fall short. No matter how many plans that they write, no matter how much information they have, they just don't do what they're supposed to do. So one of the things and the biggest part of the strategic planning process is the implementation, right? And then also as you're going through that implementation process, being open and aware to hear from God when he says, hey, don't do that one. There's something new that I want to do. Take this piece and implement this, right? But having an awareness of the Holy Spirit so that way you can hear directly from heaven and know when to deviate. And so today what we're going to talk about is implementation. One of the things that I mentioned to you guys the other day, was the fact that you needed to conduct a SWOT analysis on the front end. So that way you know and you are really aware of what your opportunities in the marketplace really are. But then also as you go through the implementation process, as you have identified the goals that you want to implement, as you have identified the decisions that you've made, it's important that you conduct a SWOT analysis on those big things that are going to require a ton of time, a ton of resources, because you need to make sure that the opportunities are there, right? You need to make sure that you've thought through the threat so that you don't get, 3 months in and then you have a $10,000 expense show up that you weren't aware of because you didn't do the assessment of that massive thing that you're going to be implementing. So if it's something small that you're going to be implementing, don't spend the time, energy, effort. But on those massive decisions that are being made, on those massive goals that you're implementing, it's really important that you go through a SWOT analysis for those, just to make sure that I've covered everything, I've thought through everything, I've thought through what resources I need. I've thought through the strengths. I've thought through the weaknesses of this plan. I've thought through this thing to the T, and I've prepared myself for as many things as I can, really think to arise. So with that being said, also be clear on who's responsible for what. As we talk about implementation, one of the reasons why I've seen so many things fail is because we don't really ever give someone a specific assignment. So then when it falls short, you're looking at everybody else like, why didn't this get done? Because you didn't identify who was responsible for that. You didn't have the person to hold accountable to it. You didn't have a person to, make sure that they were getting it done. You didn't have that in place. So I challenge you guys to really have have someone assigned, especially for massive goals. If it's not you and you have a team, make sure that you are very clear on who drives it. It doesn't mean that they are 100% responsible for everything, but what it does mean is that they are responsible for driving the goal. They are responsible for the intended outcomes, and they are going to be the one held responsible when it falls short or when it doesn't work out. So especially for those of you that have larger organizations and you have a team, don't just throw something out there and then be like, okay, we're going to do this on January the 12th. Well, make sure you understand that somebody has ownership of that activity, of that project, or whatever that is, so that it can be measured. So speaking of measurements, one of the things that many organizations fail to implement, and I see this a lot, and I'm really surprised because I don't see how you can do the same thing year after year and you've never measured it. You don't know if it's beneficial. You don't know what the outcomes are. Yes, you're looking at a financial goal and you met your financial goal, but what were the expenses to acquire or achieve that goal, right? What did you really have to pour into that? What resources were used as a result of this goal? So if you don't have the KPIs, the key performance indicators, if you aren't measuring this thing along the way, you don't know really what it cost you, because yes, you made this much money, but how much did it cost you to make that much money? So you spent $80,000 to make 100. That makes no sense, right? You actually had a turnover in staff. You lost 5 people and you only retained 2 people in the process. What is the issue there, right? You have to have key performance indicators on every major goal or outcome that you seek to achieve. So I really challenge you guys to establish some KPIs that you look to at the end, not even just at the end of the year, but throughout the year, that to measure the goal and the success of the goal, and to measure if this thing is worth the time, energy, and effort. And then also, as you're going through the implementation process, don't be so quick to give up. I have a 6-month rule where I will try and I will work through something for 6 months. And then after 6 months, if it just does not fit, and there are things, and I will say this, there are things that I've heard, like, you need to drop this don't touch it, let this thing go, it ain't working, where I've dropped it immediately, but that's very rare. For me, I have a 6-month rule where because a lot of times we drop things just because it's not familiar to us. So it's uncomfortable. We don't get that immediate gratification. So we give up on it too soon. So I have a 6-month rule. If I don't like something or it don't feel good to me, I at least have to wait 6 months before I drop it or before I give it up. That discipline keeps me from, just giving up too soon. It keeps me from saying, you know what, this is too hard. It keeps me from saying, you know what, I don't really like the way this feels. I'm not going to do this, right? This is uncomfortable. This is unfamiliar. So I challenge you to establish some type of baseline that you use to keep yourself from giving up so soon, to where you actually will say, your threshold, right? When you know something is right, wrong, or good, bad, or indifferent, right? You know what that is for you. So you need to establish some type of parameters by which you understand, hey, I'm going to try this thing for 6 months or 5 months, whatever your number is, a year. And if it does not work, I'm going to scrap it, because it's just not for me. It's not a good fit, especially for those of you that are in job situations. When you go onto a job and right up in getting up in that thing, you like, oh, this is the devil. This ain't what y'all told me. This ain't it. A lot of times I know so many people that quit after 2 weeks or a month or whatever. Sometimes you just have to push past, just the discomfort. You have to push past the attitudes. You have to push past that person that manages the front area. You just need to get past that person, and everything else is okay. But you don't see that if you don't get past the 3 months that you have to train under her, right? So if you can get past the 3 months of training under him or her, what would your life be like the remainder of the time? So I just challenge you guys to establish those baselines that help you to remain disciplined, that help you to push through. As you're implementing your plans, again, whether that's a new job that you're going on, or even if that's a new business venture that you're going into, don't be so fast to give up. I know that you've submitted 10 proposals a day and you only got 2 responses back, but keep pressing. If this thing is your heart, if you know this is what you've been assigned to, you need to keep pressing for that thing. You need to keep fighting past the discomfort so that you can see the manifestation of success at the end of that. Also, with that being said, periodically evaluate. One of the things that I noticed a lot of people don't do is they don't periodically evaluate. One, to make sure that you haven't gotten off course, right? Especially for those of us who have specific outcomes. Like for me, I seek to make sure that everything that I do is in alignment with God's will and purpose. And so with that being said, it's so easy for you to get off track, right? Because everything is designed to pull you and distract you and whatever. So it's so easy for you to deviate. You started out doing something for one reason, but then you look up or you wake up and you realize, oh my God, I've gotten so far off track. I forgot why I got into this thing. So I challenge you guys to periodically evaluate and course correct as needed. Don't get so focused on accomplishing a thing that you don't check it periodically, that you don't make sure you haven't deviated, that you don't make sure you haven't lost your way or gotten off course. And so with that being said, push through to the front. With that being said, guys, these are just the 4 steps that I've given you guys are just a baseline for you guys to use as you're preparing for 2019. Again, strategic planning works for if you're looking for a new job, if you're just trying to restructure or fix some things in your family, if you're trying to launch a new business. All of it, sitting down and going through a planning process is critical to it all, because you need to understand what's at stake. You need to understand what it is that you're going to do. You need to evaluate if it's worth it. You need to evaluate whether or not this is really what you're supposed to be doing, or is this a place you're supposed to be in, right? The strategic planning process is critical no matter what decisions you make, no matter what your goals that you've established. That process of sitting down and planning and really all planning is you sitting down and thinking and counting the cost, right? That's all planning is. I'm sitting down and I'm counting the cost of what this is. What's the cost? What is it going to cost me to do this? What is it going to cost me if I don't, right? Even that part, what is it going to cost me if I don't do this? And so with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. I will see those of you that registered for the vision board party. I will see you guys tomorrow morning. I think it starts at 10 o'clock. I will be there with bells on. We will talk about vision planning. I will give you the steps to vision planning, but I won't spend a whole bunch of time there because I want to deal with the things that keep us from fulfilling vision. Because the issue ain't that we don't know how to write a vision, right? We don't know. The issue is not that we don't know how to write the vision and make it plain. That's not the issue. The issue is what is keeping us stuck? What is keeping us from experiencing the manifestations of God's promises? What is keeping us from really, tipping the scale and going into the next level of that thing? What is stopping us? And I'll talk, I won't go into the whole thing, but I will talk more about that tomorrow. I'll give you guys a step for those of you that don't know what vision planning looks like and how to go through that. I'll give you those quick steps. But we're going to spend more time dealing with what has you stuck? Why haven't you done it? What are the excuses that you're making? We're going to talk about the prerequisites to the promise on tomorrow. And so with that being said, peace and blessings to you guys. I will see y'all tomorrow. And we will talk more. And what I will do is after the event, tomorrow's word will be still vision. So I will just give some snippets, a recap on what we talk about at the event. I'll give like a brief overview for tomorrow night's video. So with that being said, peace and blessings, guys. I hope that you guys spend the next 3 days preparing for 2019. And most importantly, over those 3 days, I hope that some of that time you allocate towards rest. Some of that time you allocate towards quietness, stillness, and you actually sit in the presence of God and you just get confirmation that this is right where I have you, that you just hear his voice and you get confirmation that yes, all that you're hearing, it's me. I really challenge you over the next 3 days to really find some time for stillness and quiet so that you can sit in the presence of God as you prepare for 2019. With that being said, peace and blessings, guys. I will see y'all tomorrow night. Have an exceptional night and a happy Saturday.